So Diancie is a mon that's been an NU staple now for 2 generations in a row. Although it fell off near the end of Sword and Shield, it was one of our stronger options for Stealth Rock setting when it immediately dropped. And we can even go back to Sun and Moon NU and look at it as a once incredible mon. Very, very versatile, had like a ton of sets. And this gen, it's not really any different from Sun and Moon. I feel like the comp to Sun Moon Diancie is probably more adequate than Sword Shield Diancie, because once again, we're seeing it really tap into all the options that it has, and run quite a lot of versatile sets, really make it malleable to whatever your team wants. So today, I'm going to talk about a lot of the sets that it runs. Of course, you've been enjoying the content. Make sure that little subscribe button's been clicked, fam. We're hitting 7K subs very, very soon. I need all of you that are not subscribed, though, to go and subscribe. That way we can fix that and get to the next milestone. Now, first up, I'm going to talk about just general utility Diancie, because this is probably the set most people like to run. This is like the most standard way you can do it. I think Terra Grass is pretty good. It fixes up like literally every weakness you have. Outside of Steel, I think. Yeah, Ground, Water, and then Steel. I think that's the only that's the only types it's weak to. That sounds right. It's like Grass gives you the resistance to both Ground and Water. And, I mean, it gets rid of your weakness to Steel. So, works out pretty nicely. I think Diamond Storm Body Press Moonblast is also just pretty fair game for what you want out of this. Moonblast isn't like the most important move ever, but I still think that having the coverage for some of these fighters is really, really nice. You do see people use Diancie as a switch into them every so often, and so it's worth remembering, like, hey, you might want to do more damage than what Body Press does, right? Like, if I switch Diancie into I'm trying to think of one, like, maybe I was gonna say Flamigo, but Diamond Storm probably does a ton after it CCs. I don't know, man, into a Water Tauros. I might want to have Moonblast for that, you know? Say it's a Scarf or Banded Water Tauros to switch it on its CC. It's just kind of nice to have the move that does more damage instead of relying on Body Press at that point. But of course, there are options for you to deviate. One, you can do Spikes. Nope, let me fix that. You can do Spikes, and you could have Spike Stems from Body Press Moonblast. This is pretty nice because Diancie does fit pretty well alongside the Steel types. Like, if you want, you could do Kaparaja plus Diancie as a Hazard score, and it works out because Diancie defensively does have some issues. I've talked about it before, but one of the big issues is trying to check dragons with it is a little bit awkward. A lot of them either have coverage for you, or just you don't beat them as consistently as maybe you should. Dragalge is the big one, where a lot of teams that run Diancie will completely drop a Steel. As a result, you usually see Dragalge have a generally positive matchup. Not that it's 6-0s, but those teams, a lot of the time, I see them relying a lot on mons that are very, very susceptible to Sludge Bomb poisons. And that can be really devastating because there's not good clerics this gen. I mean, there's really not clerics, period, this gen. So Dragalge has a lot of extra room around those builds, and a lot of it just comes down to, yeah, I mean, you ran Diancie as your check to special attackers, which works, but there's some issues. Salazzle's another mon where that can kind of manifest as well. Now, running a Steel doesn't really help there, but, I mean, it's just kind of to point out, like, there are some limitations to Diancie. However, the synergy with Steels otherwise is, like, really, really nice. Because outside of Salazzle, you check all the fire types very consistently. Arcanine has to have, like, Iron Head to hit you. Things like Typhlosion Charizard you generally aren't too worried about. Zard under Sun Solar Beaming you on a switch can be a little bit dicey, but otherwise you're a pretty competent check. Typhlosion, its Solar Beam does even less, so you're really not that concerned. Chandelure, its Shadow Ball doesn't two-shot you, so this is where Diamond Storm is very, very important, since you actually have coverage for Shandy. And then, another option too, you could do Encore on Diancie. Bulky setup is always something that is threatening to beat you down and in you. We have, God, I mean, let's look at the tier, bro. Let's talk about all the bulky setup that NU has. I mean, I'll even entertain things like Avalok and Bastiodon, just to prove the point. Like, those are bulky setup, for example. You could run into opposing Diancie. We got the bulky setup set in here. Maybe you need to Encore lock them into one of those doo-doo moves. Maybe you need to Encore lock a Duraludon into Iron Defense. I don't know how you'd ever get into position to do that. But maybe you do. Yeah, there's Florges in the tier as well. There's Grimmsnarl on the tier. Maybe they're bulk up. I don't think they'd ever keep boosting versus a Diancie, but they're there. There's Demon Klefki. There's certain Mudsdale. They might opt for like Curse or Iron Defense. So that exists. Of course, you've got Demon Registeel. You've got like Nasty Plot, Galarian Slowbro. You've got those double dancing Screamtail sets. You've got quite a few options for bulky setup. You even got things like Scrafty that I didn't mention. Snorlax. Amazing I didn't remember to mention Scrafty, but I guess it's because you, again, they're probably not staying in against you. But you got a lot of mons that Diancie's very capable of shutting down, making sure that they don't keep getting their boosts. And as a result, you are not just left wondering, oh, this mon has 4 boosts now. Where did it go wrong? So that's pretty nice. You've also got options for like EVing. Like you can go physically defensive on Diancie. I don't think there's a ton wrong with that. I just think generally with what Diancie is tasked with checking, you really need the special bulk. Like physical defense helps against maybe like Arcanine or Emboar, or I feel like there was something else I was gonna say here too. I guess like even fighting types, you can kind of switch into them a little bit better. But overall, the pool of mons you're switching into are mostly special attackers. So I would just go max special defense. I think that's just going to be the best. Otherwise, things like Dragalge are going to give you even more of a hassle. And you can definitely change the Terra type as well. This is basically going to apply to every set. You can change to the Terra type. Like, you could be Terra Water. You could be Terra Ghost. I think even Terra Ghost has a lot of appeal with spikes. Oh my god, I just realized this too. Did I mention Grass as a weakness at the beginning of the video? Grass is a weakness, and Terra Grass lets you resist that. Holy shit. But yeah, you could do like Terra Ghost with spikes. That's pretty justifiable. That way you spin block. Terra Water is just generically useful. Terra Steel is generically useful. Like, there's a lot that you can do there for Diancie. And then we're going to talk about Diancie's Demon set right here, which is just one of the more annoying setup supers in the tier. It's very hard to like stop. And part of it, I think, comes from the surprise factor. Since if I see a Diancie using moves like Diamond Storm and Body Press, I'm not really thinking much of it. If something else on their team even, like this is where the existence of spikes now in Diancie's moveset kind of makes this set even more dangerous too. Because if they've got another rocker on their team, that doesn't immediately send off the sirens in my head. Like, oh, this is a setup dance. Like, no, I don't know that yet. Maybe there's spikes. Now, I'll say this. Most of the time, they're just the setup set. But it doesn't have to mean that. So it makes complicating... Or, my bad. It makes counterplay kind of complicated since there's so much ambiguity in set that once the Diancie just randomly starts boosting with Calm Mind, it can sometimes be a little bit too late for you to react properly. It gets the Diamond Storm boost, you got your... You know, maybe you're just playing around it a little slowly because you're just not worried about it, and then it starts setting up. Think back, honestly, to that one game that I played. I think it was when I was doing Sun, maybe? I think I did a Sun video? Not the showcase one, but I was playing with Sun. My bad. I literally unplugged my microphone there. I had to go down and replay. But I was using Sun, and I remember I lost a game because some dude just started setting up with the Diancie turtle, and I'm like, wait, okay, why'd they do that though? But the point to take from that was, yeah, I mean, Diancie can just kind of snowball games very suddenly if you don't play against it properly. So, there being this nice ambiguity just because these two moves are still so good to run does make it a little difficult. Now, you might ask yourself, why not run Iron Defense here? Like, Diamond Storm, you know, it's a nice attack to have, but this is 50% chance. Diamond Storm is, not Diamond Storm, Iron Defense is 100%. And little guy named Chandelure right here. Yeah. Like, there's other mons that check you too if you do that a lot more consistently. Like, Delphox even could shut you down with Encore. You even have, like, Dragalge would be a bit better of an answer to you. I think some of it, though, a lot of it, in fact, is just that having Diamond Storm is so nice for damage. Like, it's a strong move. Diancie's attack stat isn't super high, but, like, this is just a generally strong move to use. And it's kind of, again, this plays into the concealing your set. If I have to use Iron Defense to boost my defense, that means that I am telling the world what my set is. Very, very quickly. Whereas if I'm using Diamond Storm to boost it, okay, they still don't know. So that's kind of a key part of it too. It really just helps you conceal the set. And Draining Kiss, I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's for recovery. I feel like there's some world where you fit Rest on here, but I really don't know what the world is. I think the world where you fit Rest is actually if you do this as your demon set, which again, it tells you, or it tells the world what set you're running. But like if you did this with like a Chesto Berry, I think you could try that. Now, you'd probably change your Terra type off of Steel. I had it set to Steel because I think being immune to Toxic is pretty useful, but I don't know if it's necessary. You could also do, go like Leftovers and then like Stored Power and have something like this going on. Again, though, the issue is that you just are screaming from the rooftops what your set is, and so your opponent is an Encore user. They will, with the swiftness, bring it out, and you will very quickly do nothing. So that's not too good. And I think still though, things to talk about with EVs. I have at least theory crafted before some faster EV spreads. I don't know if you need max bulk really on these sets. Especially, I mean, if obviously if you drop Diamond Storm, you could at least do Calm Nature, right? But I had been thinking to myself for a little bit, and I'm like, do you really even need all the bulk? Like, you're Double Dance. You have so much bulk. I think part of it was with Diamond Storm on the set, I didn't want to drop the output of damage of that, so I just still had the minus speed nature, and at that point it's like, okay, well, I'm not investing in speed. And I mean, you think about what are you trying to outspeed? Diancie's speed tier is very awkward, because you're slower than Florges, and you can't outrun the same things that Florges is tempted to outrun for. So, like, you with Florges might be tempted to try and outspeed Brute Bonnet. Even though Bonnet's not as good as it was because of the Spore ban, you may still... I still think it's worth investing for. Because Brute Bonnet is so good. Or not so good, but Brute Bonnet is still, like, relevant. It's an easy benchmark to hit. And I think there are also just some other mons you naturally end up outspeeding along the way for Florges. Diancie can't hit that same spot, and so, like, speed investment, Florges is generally otherwise a mon I'd invest for, but, I mean, does it matter? So, like, Umbreon, I mean, that's a mon you could run speed for, but it's gonna Toxic you either way, or force you to Terra if you don't want to get Toxic. Sylveon, I just don't know what Sylveon does, but I guess it's kind of the same point of Florges, where really they're just threatening to maybe Calm Mind in response to what you're doing. So, I mean, there you go. It's about as much justification as what you do for outrunning a Florges. So there you go. I think that's like a justifiable speed spot. You could do like, if you wanted just for Sylveon, do like, I think it's here. Around here at least. And then there you go. Ooh, nice little 4 in defense too, why not? But yeah, maybe something like this you end up with. I think, and again, I think even if you have the Diamond Storm variant on here with Diamond Storm Body Press, I do think this works. I don't know. I need to look and see if there are certain mons that you really want Diamond Storm to do damage against. We could calc it here. We're gonna say 0. So, Chandelure, how much do I do to Shandy? So yeah, here's actually where it's important. So Chandelure, you can one-shot. You always one-shot after a spike. But if you drop your attack, you no longer one-shot ever. And with a spike, it's only a 50% chance, give or take. So that's a little bit of the impact of Diamond Storm. And I mean, it's not like Chandelure doesn't threaten to do a million damage. As you can see here, Shadow Ball from Spec Shandy is a ton. So like if you're switching into Chandelure, you kind of need to make sure Diamond Storm is threatening it effectively enough. Because Shadow Ball is a guaranteed 3-shot, as you see there. So that's maybe where you need Diamond Storm to do its full output. And then lastly, we have offensive Diancie. Now, this is my favorite Diancie set. I think it's very, very satisfying to just take games over with Meteor Beam Diancie. And this is also where set ambiguity can kind of come in, and why these versatile mons are so much more annoying to deal with than mons that are one-trick ponies, even when those single sets are really good. Think about like Inteleon. There are other sets that can run than Specs, right? But Specs is like the set you're gonna see. That set is incredible, but at least I can queue it at Inteleon and know that 99.9% of the time it is a choice Specs Inteleon. When I face Diancie, my counterplay has completely changed if it's this set. Like, Specs Inteleon, I know what I'm facing, and I know what I can do against it to have an appropriate response. If I get Meteor Beamed by a Diancie as I go to my Encore Delphox, bro, it's just Jover, man. It's just Jover. There's nothing to do from there. I am dead. My Delphox is going back to wizarding school, man. Literally teleported into Harry Potter's book. No longer part of this realm. Which is not ideal. So, when you have these sets that just differs, like, we talked about how a lot of counterabilities, not these two sets, but this set could be like more passive, like toxic, like Encore, Haze even I'll throw in, Trick. This set, you just have to survive. You have to be able to, you know, kill it. Which is easier said, you know, well, I was gonna say easier said than done, but it's like a lot easier than these other sets because it's not as bulky. You know, you're trying to live an attack and then maybe beat it down in response. Well, you know, I'd love to know that from preview, but it's not always obvious. If I'm facing Hyper Offense, okay, yeah, it's probably Meteor Beam Diancie. There's still some incredibly insane and deranged individuals that'll run a set like this on HO, but again, maybe I could suss it out if I face it on HO. Maybe on like Trick Room, I could suss out a Meteor Beam set. Shoutouts this variant of Diancie. Of course, just run no speed. I feel like that goes without saying. But otherwise, I mean, yeah, this set can catch you off guard. Like I said, I mean, Delphox maybe could just get absolutely sniped by it. Maybe you have a, I'm trying to think of other good examples here, but admittedly, a lot of mons that would switch into the set here could still take like a ton of chip trying to do it. Let me look through here. I guess even, you know what? No, I got one. Scarf Florgus. Trick Scarf Florgus could pretty justifiably switch into this Diancie. Shut it down with Trick and then you're good. This Diancie, I'm getting obliterated by Meteor Beam on the switch with the Swiftness. And from there, if I trick it a Scarf, if it goes for Moonblast, well, now it's spam. It just killed my Florgus. But two, now it's spamming out Moonblasts. I still gave it a speed boost, so it's kind of fast anyway. Maybe not the best, you know? I feel like I could have gone better. Same idea if, like, Klefki were to come in and try to do that. It's like, oh, well, I gave it a Scarf. Same with Meloetta. Wow, now the Diancie is faster than me, and it still has a speed boost. Wonderful. Or it still has a special attack boost. Wonderful. And obviously, too, you could have, like, to this side, maybe something like Galarian Slowbro you use as your counterplay, right? And you say, okay, well, my Nasty Plot lets me outboost their Calm Mind, so I should be able to beat it down 1v1. Oh, congratulations on trying a Nasty Plot versus this. You got one shot, bro. Good job. One shot. Oh, Perish Trap Altaria is your answer. Well, wonderful. Oh, you Terra Steeled. Wonderful. I have Earth Power. And even like this set, you could do Terra Ground. Because otherwise, I have seen a lot of people go Terra Ground just for Earth Power chip. You don't really need the defensive utility from Terra Grass too often. It's just kind of nice to have. Terra Ground can also be cool and randomly giving you a Volt Switch blocker as well, which maybe you are running into, like, I don't know, one of the dying Jolteon on ladder still, you know, like the last of its kind, and you want to block a T-Bolt hit or something. There's that. Maybe a Thundurus is going to pivot on you. I mean, it's just so niche that I don't really think we run into too many circumstances where we need it. If anything, I would say versus Pawmot or like a Specs Toxtricity, it's more relevant. Because Pawmot might decide to Terra Electric Double Shock you just to try and like hit you before you can set up too much. And Terra Ground just completely stifles that. Toxtricity important as well because maybe you sacrifice something to the Overdrive and then you bring out Diancie afterwards and you're able to immediately Terrastalize and get a Rock Polish off. So, and there's even a decent chance they'd stay in 2 Overdrive. I mean, I don't think they would because Terra Grass is like the other common Terra type, and so that's still a problem. But maybe they don't expect it, and you just get like the complete immunity to the chip, and it's just very, very free boosting. Yeah, I mean, this is basically Diancie. There's some other sets you can run too, but we just don't really see them this gen, so I'll like just showcase like choice specs, for example. We saw some specs Diancie back in Sun and Moon, but we haven't really seen it at all this gen, so I don't know if it's just never gonna be a thing again, or if it's just, I don't know. I think really the issue with Specs Diancie is power creep has gone up, and so a Specs attacker with 100 special attack, people typically aren't moved by, especially because you compare it maybe to like Choice Banded Flygon, and you'd say, okay, well, Flygon runs banned sometimes, and it's just as weak as Diancie naturally. So what's up with that? Well, I would say the difference is Flygon 1 could, it got U-turn to do like revenge killing stuff like that, or just to bluff Scarf. You have first impression to actually revenge kill. Also, you're spamming Earthquake. Notoriously spammable move Earthquake. So, a little bit easier to just get off your damage, I'd say. Diancie otherwise has to do with like steel types coming in and ruining everything you believe in. Again, you can't pivot. We've also seen like just generally, I'll take out the item just for, I guess, what's it called, visualizings. God, I can't speak. I was gonna say visual purposes. You're like offensive rocks, Diancie. This was something we saw in Sun and Moon in you. Obviously, you had Farium Z back then as like the primary item. We don't have that now, but you could do like Air Balloon Diancie with this and just throw like Moonblast. We'll do Moonblast, Earth Power, Power Gem or something. Back then too, the coverage you had like Mystical Fire, and yeah, it doesn't sound like that great. I was like, okay, well, I have Earth Power already. Why would I need Mystical Fire? Pharaoh Seed. People ran Pharaoh Seed to check Diancie. And so, a little helpful for that, I guess. It's not like the most crucial coverage that you had, but it was something. You also did a little bit more damage to Delmai. I think Delmai's and Diancie's time overlapped. You did a little bit more to Delmai's with Mystical Fire compared to Stab and Blast, so there was that too. But yeah, this is the Diancie showcase, guys. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know down below, what's your favorite Diancie set? Because, as we said in the video, I mean, we only showed off 3, like, truly showed off 3 sets, but Mon has a pretty deep bag, so let me know what you've been using on it. Hope you all had a great time, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.